And hey everybody, welcome back. We have got a bit of an update on the Henry Cavill Witcher fiasco that we saw play out over the last couple of years. Now, if you didn't watch The Witcher, most people agree, myself included, that Season 1 and 2 had some decent pieces to them. Henry Cavill as Geralt definitely worked pretty well. But unfortunately, it just didn't seem to follow the story from the books or the games, and it left most of the audiences wanting more. Then they announced before Season 3 came out that Henry Cavill would not be reprising the role of Geralt, and unfortunately, it pretty much showed in the season that followed. Season 3 was it was pretty awful. I'll be honest. Henry Cavill seemed to have completely checked out. He did not seem interested in being in the show. The woman that played Yennefer was pretty fantastic, as I was pleasantly surprised by her performance. She definitely tried, in my opinion, to do her best to salvage the season, but unfortunately the show was just doomed to fail. And so after, it was announced that he was leaving the show, they cast Liam Hemsworth to be his replacement, which I think is just laughably bad. Now they have started canceling spin-off shows from The Witcher. Now, apparently one of these shows is called The Rats, and I had never heard of it before. I don't know. I'm not like neck deep in The Witcher lore. I played the game, and I've briefly kind of studied up on the history of the characters, but I had never heard of this. And apparently there was an untitled series aimed at children that has also been canceled. How there would be a children's series based off the Witcher universe, I have no idea. That just seems bizarre to me. So now they've canceled those two shows, as well as announcing that rather than, I believe it was the original up to 7 seasons that Henry Cavill had signed on for, they are going to be, kiboshing the season, or the series after season 5. So Witcher is going to end, well, supposedly at the end of season 5, but honestly, I think after season 4 drops and people just discover for themselves how much worse it is than season 3, this show is going to be DOA. It's going to flop bad. I mean, the season 3 viewership was already pretty awful. So if you remember, there were things like Blood Origins too that they tried doing. That was a spin-off from this show. Never should have happened. Worst idea ever. The reviews, I believe it was one of the worst reviewed shows on Netflix. That is how bad it was. And unfortunately for Henry Cavill, things seem to be getting worse. If you recall, Henry Cavill, before The Witcher news, he got kiboshed from his role as, Superman. It's something that he was well known for. Pretty much everybody, if you didn't know Henry Cavill from any other movie, Superman was the one that everybody would recognized him from. So he got unceremoniously fired. They cast a younger actor to replace him. James Gunn is rebooting the DCEU. And, he was kind of like, okay, well, at least I've got The Witcher. Oh, wait a second. Not so much. Well, now he has moved on to making Warhammer, the series, for Amazon. But unfortunately, that's not looking very positive anymore either. Now, from that Park Place, we have this article talking about how there is a rumor that Henry Cavill is not happy with Warhammer's recent introduction of female custodies, which is another topic we will refresh your memory on if you're not quite sure what I'm talking about, and how Amazon wants female space marines. So basically, if you haven't been paying attention to online discourse the last month, Warhammer, this game that is produced by Games Workshop, decided to retcon, and not even do a good retcon. It was a gaslighting retcon of their series, Warhammer, and start saying that there's always been a group of characters that has female soldiers in them, despite the fact that they have never existed. It's always been male soldiers. It's always been a group of, again, genetically modified men, male warriors. But they went back and said, oh no, there's always been females in there. And now they've apparently changed the backstory to say, see, there's been females there, despite the fact that for decades going back, this has never happened. Well, Henry Cavill, being the Warhammer aficionado that he is, supposedly is not happy about this. And so that Park Place says a new rumor alleges that Amazon MGM Studios and Prime Video wanted the female Space Marines for their upcoming Warhammer film or series being helmed by Henry Cavill. However, Games Workshop compromised with female Adeptus Custodes. So this is apparently their compromise to make it happen so they can put it in the show. At least that's what I conclude from this. It says this latest rumor comes in the wake of Games Workshop introducing a female Adeptus Custodes character named Custodian Calades Teorvalia Kesh in their Codex Adeptus Custodes. Not only did Games Workshop introduce the character, but the official Warhammer social media account gaslit fans claiming there have always been female custodians, despite the overwhelming evidence to the contrary. And this is what we're talking about. They didn't just say, well, we're going to retcon this and make it more modern and diverse like they always do, and you can just kind of roll your eyes and say, well, there goes another universe that they're just trashing the lore on. But it's predictable. No, this was straight up, oh no, it's always been this way. You're crazy if you think otherwise. So the article goes on to say, in the wake of this announcement, a rumor surfaced on 4chan claiming that the female custodies are only going to be mentioned in the codex. No new sculpts or characters after the fact. Social media department jumped the gun and tried to put out fires with the wrong hose. Intent is to push female custodies characters in Amazon show without it breaking lore because Amazon execs wanted a woman in power armor and wouldn't settle for the Sisters of Battle. And again, Sisters of Battle, there's actually several groups of these female-only soldiers that they're kind of like counterparts to the males. So again, this isn't even a situation where they were excluding women from the universe. It just made more sense to have them, much like you would, like, say, orcs aren't going to be mixed with, elves or men in Lord of the Rings. Well, they're not going to mix the female and male battalions. There's just reasons that they do things differently. There's a reason that they're separated. So again, you have this leak coming out, and now you've got this YouTuber Arch, who's a massive Archcast. He's a massive Warhammer lore nerd and YouTuber. He covers, he used to be known as, I believe it was Arch Warhammer, until Warhammer told him, we're going to sue you if you don't change your name. So Archcast says that he has an inside source at Amazon MGM Studios, alleging that Amazon did indeed influence the introduction of a female Adeptus Custodes, and it was the result of a compromise because the streamer wanted female Space Marines. So Arch begins his video stating, my Amazon insider has given me some information in regards to the female Custodes debacle and Amazon's involvement in it, which may at least in part exonerate Games Workshop. He detailed, according to my insider here, the attitude at the Amazon Games Workshop meetings reached downright threatening levels where the two sides were not happy with one another at all, with Games Workshop actually pushing back quite aggressively on the idea of female Space Marines. Probably understanding to do so would be devastating for their company. Look at the sheer scale of the storm that was created by female Custodes, which is not anywhere near as massive as a faction as the Space Marines. And that's true. If you think of Warhammer, if you've ever seen a picture or heard anybody talk about Warhammer, even if you've never played it yourself, you know Space Marines. That's the thing. They're the most marketable, in my opinion, well-known character from the entire franchise. And so he continued, Games Workshop, knowing this would be a terrible idea, pushed back a lot, but Amazon were not willing to give up on this and may have carried out various little tactics like threatening to bring back people on Amazon who were selling third-party goods for 40K related stuff, as they did even take down things like alternative dice sellers and people were selling bases and so on. That might have been a thing, and they might also have perhaps been talking about leaving the conversation altogether. And that's another rumor that we saw, was that Henry Cavill himself was ready to walk, that he was like, I'm done with this, I have no, use for this if you guys aren't going to do this right. Supposedly, they either haven't inked or just recently inked the deal for the show itself. Or so it goes, I don't know for sure. It says, Arch details, eventually my insider says that Games Workshop caved in part, and the female Custodes was a compromise solution intended both to ameliorate relationships with Amazon by going, okay, how about this? You'll have your female power armor, but we won't do it with the Space Marines, okay? And also as a way to demonstrate to Amazon that this was not going to go over very well. In fact, Arch detailed that an automated Amazon system has noticed significant complaints regarding the company's various IP-related shows, such as Wheel of Time, Rings of Power, which is horrible, and Warhammer. Arch shared, and indeed Amazon's bots, as well that monitor the feedback that Amazon gets, has been noticing a sharp uptick in people sending in complaints about them, ruining universes like the Rings of Power and mentioning the 40K TV show in specific. Now, these have not been acted upon, nor is there any indication that Amazon is particularly concerned yet, but there is now sufficiently large enough volume of these complaints ahead of time to point to where they're scraping bots. The software looking for feedback is picking up on it and going, there's a lot of these. Should some human take a look at this maybe? Do we need to know what's going on here? What is causing this trend of negative feedback? Following this portion of the rumor, Arch turned his attention to what a source told him about Cavill's reaction. He stated, as for Henry Cavill, I've also heard something related to him, now namely that he is quite upset about this change. He's pissed at it, but he's not going to walk. So that's interesting. So again, the original rumor that we heard was that he was basically ready to walk away from the set. He was done with the show. Now we're hearing new rumors that he's not quite ready to walk away. The quote from Arch says, bearing in mind that we don't even know if it's possible for him to walk at this point, as his introduction and, co-starring and producing in this was one of the earliest fundamental pieces of news about this show. For all we know, he could be bound hand and foot by contractual obligation and penalties at this point. Alternatively, again, well, it's an Amazon paycheck. I'm not entirely sure I'd be willing to turn down that much unless somebody who's an actual actor and this is being his job, you know. That's true. This is his how he makes his living. For Henry Cavill, he really got kicked off the set of The Witcher. He didn't have much of a choice about it. Choosing to walk was more of, I'm being forced out, and everyone can see why based on the way the show was going. In this situation, given the fact that he is basically the guy running the show, producing, he's going to be starring in it, co-starring, and it's his baby, he's a huge Warhammer fan, it would be a lot harder for him to turn down that money and still have a career afterwards, I'd imagine, if he tried to tank this show by leaving. So, unfortunately for Henry, he might have his hand forced for him at this point, where he may not be able to, like, you know, fight Amazon too much on the things that they're going to do in the show. I don't know how much control he has given up to outsiders on this show as far as the lore and the direction that they're going to take it. I'm hoping it's good. I was really hoping that this show would be great and it would help a lot of people, myself included, to understand more about the Warhammer universe. But it remains to be seen how it's going to go. In the meantime, guys, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Let us know what you think about all this down below, and I will see you on the next one. Alright, and if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you for being here. I do have 2 channels, Minimal Effort Podcast, as well as my gaming channel. I do have a Twitch and Kick for my gaming channel. We do live streams over there occasionally, maybe once a week. And then if you are in the market for a new PC, make sure to check out Meta PCs. Click the link I have down below. Use code TBO at checkout for a special discount. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.